going on, guys? I'm Ben Bateman.
And I'm Andrew Guy.
And we are
The Action Guys.
Guys. What's up?
I saw that you did that last week with Mark Riley, your new best friend, apparently.
How did you feel about that?
I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I did like your prompting him, though.
Yeah, it was funny, right?
He did a good job.
Yeah.
He hopped on. That's all I watched.
I said
was the
do it
intro.
like a dunce, and he really leaned in.
He really did.
More even a dunce than we do it.
Well, this is just what we sound
That's
like.
this is us. It's
This
who we
is
are.
just us. Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Action Guys. We talk about movies on this show. The guys that talk about them are us, and we are The Action Guys.
And we are the Action Guys. They're not always action movies. However, you could call Toy Story 4 an action adventure in all the Toy Story movies, and that is kind of what inspired the conversation today is Toy Story. We just covered on Action Movie Anatomy earlier today, and it's one of those movies that for us, you go back and it's essentially perfect. It's 87 minutes, 81?
81 minutes.
81 minutes.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's perfect. The animation still holds up. The story is deep as you want it to be, but also like the outline of the, cool guy meets new cooler guy and then wants to take over and then ends up as a bad guy. And then, like the story structure of itself isn't too complicated.
Right.
But the tones and things they talk about it are. And it kind of got us to thinking about other movies that we watched as kids.
Yes, absolutely. We had a whole conversation about sort of what were the movies that you can remember as a child. And that can go through a certain age. I mean, you can call yourself, it could even be a movie you watched when you were 21 or 25 and it shaped you. But like really the movies that you feel like have sort of made you who you are, or you have the fondest memories, or they informed you of some, I always think about whether it's like the first really violent movie you watched, or the first sex scene in a movie that you watched, like
Desperado.
the things they just really sort of stuck in your mind. And so we decided to have a conversation about that. And initially I said to Drew, I think this is a loose idea because it's just we've talked about a lot of these movies, and then I started like naming movies. I was like, oh yeah, I guess we don't really ever get to talk about a lot of these on the shows because they're not action movies necessarily, and they associate with like a memory, and we can explain it. And so I think that seemed like a really cool approach for an episode. So we decided to do the Action Guys top 5 movies that shaped us. Each of us has a top 5 list, some honorable mentions we're going to throw out there.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback on what you were saying is like we try to make it a very important point to be driving towards the end of the episode, not just kind of like talk for X amount of time, 30 to 45 minutes.
But this time we're just going to talk.
This time we're just going to talk. We're just going to talk about movies we love and why we love them and the first time we saw them. And I'll front load it with saying that none of my movies came out past the year 2000, which I was born in '88, so I was 12.
Yep.
And
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Is that similar for you or no?
That is the same for me. Every single movie on my list is a 90s movie.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
It's perfect because we were 90s babies, like legitimately. So before we hop into the conversation, first things first, you guys can find me at Andrew Guy on Twitter.
You guys can find me at Ben Bateman Media, and Team Action and all the things that we do. You can find at Team Action Show on Twitter, and then everywhere else it's at Action Industries. We have this amazing team working with us, creating content, posting news. There's an incredible Facebook group. There's Facebook pages. There's a YouTube channel, which you may be watching this actually, getting the video version of this there. But otherwise, the audio version of this is available every single week on the Collider Podcast Factory feed.
Yeah.
So, subscribe, like, comment, leave your thoughts below there. And Drew and I are doing live streams now every single week on the Action Industries YouTube as well. We have a Monday 5 p.m. we're doing right after this. We've got a Wednesday 9:30 p.m. and a Thursday 2 p.m. So those are hour-long live, just like Q&As, get to know us. We do all different news topics and things like that.
Yeah, I even threw a couple trailer reactions in my last one. So yeah, go follow us on all those fronts. And as you said, make sure if you're listening to us on audio, it's the Collider Factory feed, Spotify, Podcast One, Apple Podcast. That is the place to please download, comment, give reviews on there. It really helps us and it really helps Collider. And obviously we can't thank Collider enough for letting us do this show.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we should just jump straight into the episode here, and we're going to start with our honorable mentions. Do you want to go 3 and 3, or do you want to go 1, 1, 1?
Let's go 1, 1, 1 and see. We don't have to piggyback on each other's, but we might have thoughts on each one of them. So you want to start first?
Yeah, I was so hard. There was a lot of movies here.
I know. I feel really bad that the movies that fell out of my
top
fives were some of the ones that speak a lot to me.
So I'm going to say that honorable mention number 1 is Three Amigos. So
Nederlanden.
Yeah, I watched Three Amigos with my family. It was like the movie that we watched as a family.
Look up here, look up here. Yeah.
You two, up here. We watched Three Amigos like as many times as like any movie probably. Like I think that was just the movie. Like as a family after dinner, what should we watch? Oh, let's put on Three Amigos. Like in my mind, we watched 100 times. We probably watched it like 12.
I'm the same way. There was the two movies for me that were like that with my family were the Three Amigos, and actually there's 3 now. It was Three Amigos, the Christmas Vacation, and then also Lord of the Rings is like become. But Lord of the Rings actually isn't in my movies that shaped me because I felt like I had already.
It was a little later.
Yeah, it was only a couple years later.
We were 13.
We were 13 then. We were teenagers.
We were seasoned.
Yeah, Three Amigos is so good. The three of them together.
It's terrific. I mean, I could talk about that movie all day, but I need to save my enthusiasm for my top 5.
A plethora of peñatas.
Yeah.
So my.
Do you know what a plethora is? No, el guapo.
No, I mean. So my first one, and it's funny, I don't actually remember really loving this movie as much as I did.
Yeah.
But my sisters all know every word to every line and every song in The Little Mermaid. They said
my sister loved it.
that I watched it so much when I was 5 that they actually went and hid it after a month because it was on all day, every day on repeat for over a month.
Flounder and Sebastian.
And the funny thing is, I don't really even remember that movie like that well. I don't think I've watched it in 20 years.
I'm the same way. I remember though. This was a Flounder, Sebastian, Ursula, Prince Eric, Triton, Ariel.
Yeah, Eric, Prince Eric.
Yeah, Prince Eric.
And then the two eels were a question on the movie Trivia Shimoda. I got it wrong. I didn't remember.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's been so long.
The Eagles?
The eels. That are Ursula's like two.
They have a name?
Sidekicks. They have names. Yeah. Or it might have even been
So Flotsam and Jetsam or something like that?
maybe.
Yeah.
I don't even remember. But it's funny because my nephew had a movie, Babe, Pig in the City. I mean, no, excuse me, just the first Babe.
Yeah.
I will not watch that movie.
Because you watched too much.
He watched it. I was there for 2 weeks when I was a kid, and he
Yeah.
watched it all day, every day for 2
Interesting.
weeks. Yeah,
Interesting.
so that's Little Mermaid is my honorable mention. What about them?
My second honorable mention is going to be The Rock, which is The Rock. Like it was a perfect movie at the perfect age for me because it came out in 1996 and I was 8 years old. And I went to my friend Nick Hathaway's house. He lived on a houseboat.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
And I remember we had The Rock, the VHS tape, and it was rated R. And I think it is rated R, right? It's got to be.
Yeah,
It's a lot of violence.
They're having sex in the beginning, remember?
That's right. Yeah. She's got on all the fur and stuff. Carla. And it's an elegant string of pearls configuration.
Let's go home and fuck the prom queen.
So, but we watched this movie back to back to back 3 times, I remember. And like it was like one of the first R-rated movies that I think, I watched a lot of R-rated movies as a kid. But this one I watched without my dad. I watched it with my friend Nick. And it was like, you play like cops and robbers as a kid, guns. Like they all just shooting each other.
Yeah.
And like now when we watch it, we can get like super hyped on the shower room shootout because it's like we're older and it's like funny and a little silly. But at the time, like I was not aware of how like sweet slow-mo, like the Michael Biehn sidearm. Like and how ridiculous and silly and overdone a lot of it is. Like, let's waste these fuckers. Like, as a kid, you're like, oh my God, this is so exciting.
That guy's so bad. He's such a bad guy.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Under Siege was that movie for me and my buddies. I remember watching together to sleep over, and then obviously the Playboy bunny, the jumping out of the thing, and then all the killing. I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my whole life.
Erica Christensen? No, that's different.
No.
Erica something.
Yeah, I can't remember what her actual name is.
Yeah.
So next on my list is Clueless. We talk about this movie a lot because it's the movie that my sister left behind when she went to college, as opposed to the movie that your brother left behind when he went to college.
Yeah.
So Clueless was that movie for me. It was a movie I didn't really ever watch while she lived with me. But then when she left, I would go and it was like the one thing left in her room for some reason. I think she just fell out of a box or whatever. And so I started watching it. I love that movie. I love Cher. I have like such a crush on her. And then Paul Rudd's awesome in there. And it was before I even knew who Paul Rudd was or before he really was who he is.
Is that her stepbrother? Half-brother?
Yeah, stepbrother. Because they end up dating.
Right. At the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And is the guy she's into Breckin Meyer? Is that who it is?
I think it's Breckin Meyer, and he's such a tool.
Yeah, right.
He's like listening to like Enya in the car.
Yeah.
He's like, sweet. Turn away. Like, I hate this guy.
It's been a few years since I've seen that movie. My number 3 is Batman '89.
Oh,
there's a lot of movies on here.
Batman.
Full disclosure: the close consideration here was Goodfellas.
Because I was like way out of my league as a kid.
I just have this one memory of going to we had like some vacation with my brother, my sister, and my dad, and we were at like a cabin, like a ski resort or something, or like somewhere, and like we were staying in this little like cabin, and they had like 300 VHS tapes. You could like watch a movie, and they had Reservoir Dogs and Goodfellas. And because my family was all about just letting me watch whatever I wanted,
awesome. We
we all talked about like which one to watch. We chose Goodfellas. It was the first time I had seen it, so I like really remember. It was just awesome, but that's not the one I wanted to pick. I wanted to pick Batman. So
Batman '89, so good.
Well, yeah, because like Batman and Peter Pan, I think, were like the two characters when I was like 8, 9 years old that were like spoke to me the most or whatever. You know, like and Batman, like I watched the animated series every single day after school.
Yep.
And you know, because this movie came out a year after we were born, but my parents had a record collection, like LPs.
Oh, I still remember that record.
And my parents had the Batman record, and so we would, you know, I would like. I didn't even really know the songs. I just like would put the record on because it was Batman. I was
Kissed
like,
by a Rose, man.
Yeah, no, different, different Batman movie.
Best song ever.
And like just this movie just was. I watched it a lot growing up. It's like
Same.
really memorable. Like I Am Batman. Like Jack was so good, and just
Him laying on the pavement dead
Yeah,
with
at the end.
laughing. Yeah.
there was just a lot about this movie. And you know when you watch it now, it still holds up really well.
Yeah.
It's a really solid movie.
I still think that Keaton's my favorite Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Bale's my favorite Bruce Wayne, I think.
Kilmer.
Last
It's
one.
all Kilmer.
It's all Kilmer. Last one for me is Pretty Woman. So this was like, it was one of the few R-rated movies that my mom let me watch when I was younger because she loved it so much. And I just remember watching it and kind of like, I could like tell that this movie was special,
Right.
like really special. I didn't really know why. I thought it was because it was Richard Gere and
Yeah.
Julia Roberts, which obviously is a big part of it. But
Right.
like I just knew them as like two of the most famous people ever. And also the first DVD I ever owned was Runaway Bride. It was I got 3-pack. It was Runaway Bride, Spies Like Us, and Blue Streak. That was my
What?
3-pack.
It was like a 7-Eleven 3-pack?
No, it was like those were the 3 movies that came when we bought the DVD player from like Walmart or whatever.
Oh, it like came with it. Those 3 movies.
Those 3 movies. Or like I think those are the 3 that I picked out of like what I could pick from. I don't know.
Spies Like Us,
I don't
Runaway
know.
Bride, Blue
My
Streak.
mom like was like, "Oh, this has got to be a good movie." Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase. Are
Yeah,
great.
right. Yeah.
You know, so like,
The movie's funny.
yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pretty Woman for some reason it was just like I knew it was bad because it was an R-rated movie, but
Yeah.
it's really like a pretty clean R-rated movie for the
Yeah.
most part. I remember one time my mom like said something to me, and at the very beginning of the movie, Kit, she's like, "Oh, I just needed a little pick me up." She
Yeah.
says that. I said that to my mom once, and she was furious.
Because you didn't understand.
I didn't understand what it meant.
Yeah.
I didn't know that she went and bought drugs
Yeah.
essentially to like get a pick me up.
Yeah,
and so I
right.
said it to my mom, and she goes, "You cannot say that. You say that again, you cannot watch Pretty Woman."
Wow.
And I was like, I love that movie.
I'm
"Don't
sorry,
take that."
Mom.
Yeah. And then Hector Elizondo, I always wanted just to be my uncle.
Well, he's the best.
He's the best.
That movie I watched for the first time 6 months ago. Not even 3 months ago.
That's such a
And
trip.
it was my 10 out of 10 perfect movie on my list of 100 that I'm watching.
I remember that.
It's like the best reviewed movie. I think I've reviewed like 3 movies, perfect 10s on this list of 100 movies. And if you guys are listening, and I talk about this every once in a while, but this project I'm doing 100 movies I missed. And it's basically 100 movies that are like, I should have watched for one reason or another. Most of them are classics that I've never watched. I'm doing a Twitter review of all of them. I think that was like movie number 17 or something. I'm like 34 in so far.
Yeah, I really liked your review on that. And it does. It holds up perfectly. It's so good.
Well, the crazy thing about that movie that I was thinking is like she's so charming and special and sweet in that movie. You fall in love with her, but he's equally charming, and he's the best version of a rich guy in a movie I've ever seen. He feels so rich
and so classy.
Yeah.
And like that's what a real like billionaire would act like.
You just
right?
are like exactly just the way that he like buys things, the way he negotiates, the way he dresses, the way he like doesn't say more than he has to.
Right.
It's
he can't
awesome.
even drive the sports car because he probably hasn't. He like never drives himself around.
It's the best.
You know?
I loved that movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So those are our honorable mentions. I had a few others written down,
Same.
but
Definitely sucks
we're
to not
gonna
be
get
able
into
to talk about
yeah,
him.
yeah. We'll get into the main portion of the show here. So this is the Action Guys top 5 movies that shaped us. Each of us are going to sound off with our 5. We'll go one at a time here. Let's get straight into it. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first, and I'll hop in with Dumb and Dumber. Yeah, So this was a movie that, even though, because a lot of people don't know this about me, I was raised Mormon. It's a very conservative religion for those of you who don't know. I feel like everyone knows what Mormonism is because it's been parodied and made fun of for so long.
Yeah, right.
This was one of the few movies that my 2 oldest sisters, who were very Mormon at the time, they would let me watch, and we could watch together. And it was
Right.
kind of like a raunchy comedy because there are moments, you know, like in Dumb and Dumber, like he lifts up her skirt,
Oh,
and you
yeah.
see her butt, and like
For sure, it's a little raunchy.
you know,
yeah.
like like eat the fun bags on that one, you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
all that's anyway. So it was one of those movies where it was like I could watch with them and like laugh and feel completely comfortable because they were comfortable with it.
Yeah, right.
And it was like one of those few because I probably started to watch R-rated movies when I was 13.
Yeah.
And in most like traditional Mormons do not watch R-rated movies
Period.
because it's there's so many sins in it. It might
Yeah.
make your mind wander. So that was the one that I could watch with Julia, the one I could watch with Sandra. We would all be laughing our asses off no matter what. And honestly, when you go and watch Dumb and Dumber today, it's just as good as it was then. It's even maybe better.
It's one of the funniest movies ever made. It's prime time Jim Carrey. It's Jeff Daniels. It's just, that movie is just perfect.
We still quote it. Like, we'll say, like, I like it a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know, doing stuff like that, or like, that's a lovely accent. New Jersey?
Yeah.
Like, Austria. We're like, God, it's so good. So, yeah, Dumb and Dumber is my very first movie that shaped me. And also, I think I'd realized then that, you know, movies, there was like this whole type of funny movies out there that weren't rom-coms and that weren't like kids comedies, because, you know, I saw this when I was a kid.
Yeah, well, like the R-rated coming of age comedy is a different genre.
Right.
This is just like dumb buddy comedy that's just funny.
Yeah, dumb buddy comedy with tons of physical humor and tons of really clever and tons of really dumb humor.
Well, and every generation's got a couple comedians that are like the definitive comedians, the ones that like really transcend. And Jim Carrey, this is the front end of pretty stacked 90s. He like kind of owns the 90s there for a bit. And this movie is just, I mean, it's also just like so many of the gags still play. Yeah. Like, obviously, them thinking that these guys are like genius criminals, but they're not. Right. They're like following them and tracking them down. They send a message. It was the white owl.
They kill the guy. Yeah. They kill the owl. Like, all this stuff. We killed one of their birds. They killed one of ours.
Yeah. they put all the peppers in the burger.
He's like dying. Here's some pills. Pills are good. It's rat poison.
It's also just like the amazing stuff of just like when he's eating the burger and it's too spicy, and just like he's spraying the
ketchup and mustard.
Yeah, those are the moments that you just remember, and like the physical comedy is just perfect. So, and
like as we've gotten older, I think about like what were those days like on set?
Yeah.
I bet you that people were pissing their pants on set like every day.
You would have to think. So on the flip side of that, I'll go with a comedy also. My 90s comedy, which is Tommy Boy. And Farley is a really special. He's a really special actor and like a comedian in my life and in my heart, because growing up, he was the guy that I thought was the funniest. I saw this movie in theaters when I was 7 years old, and I just died laughing. And this movie has so much heart, too, is the thing about it. As he got further into his career, each movie he made had a little less. Like, Black Sheep's got a similar amount because of his relationship to his brother and all that, but a little less than this. And then Beverly Hills Ninja is a pretty bad movie. And Almost Heroes is also bad, though I love it.
You do love Almost Heroes.
But, like, this movie is, like, Farley sort of, it's exactly after SNL. He's only on for a couple seasons. Yeah. He has like these legendary sketches, like Van Down by the River, and obviously Chippendales, and like he just
Zagat's.
I mean, I would stuff a pillow in my shirt and put on glasses, like my hair back, and do the Matt Foley sketch like at the dinner table, try to get my family to laugh, because I was like a chubby kid.
Yeah.
And I like if I was sick, staying home from school, I would watch Tommy Boy like 3 times. Like it was just like my favorite comedy. Always loved it. So many jokes that still play. I mean,
and the cast, like Dennehy, Bo Derek, Rob Lowe.
Oh yeah,
him and Spade doing anything together.
Yeah, when Spade hits him with the board and they're sitting at the dinner, and he's like, "Richard, do I have a mark on my face?" Nope. He's like, "It's not so much here or here, but it's right here." Nope. And she's like, "Jesus, what happened to your face?" I knew it. It's just like. The jokes just
precious little pet.
Oh my god, right? And like him and him like in all the sales meetings with the car, like he's just like, "Here comes the meat wagon." And the guy gets out and says, "Oh my god. Oh my god. There's a cliff." Oh. No, I mean that movie I laughed probably more at that movie than any comedy that I've ever watched.
And so do you have this feeling now when you go back and watch it where it's almost sad? Or is it still so enjoyable? Or is it both? Like, because
Farley makes me sad, but not so much so that I don't laugh. Like, I enjoy enjoying him.
Good, yeah. Same. I just like, it's one of those things where like every 20 minutes you kind of have a moment of like,
yeah, right.
Damn,
this guy was like 30. Like he should have had. He might not even been 30 actually.
He should still have been doing what he did then. Now,
yeah, that we've talked about it a lot. But the Adam Sandler special, 100% Fresh. He does a song about Farley last year, and it's this year actually. I think it came out. You can go watch it on Netflix or on YouTube. Yeah, and that song will make you cry. Like,
it will.
If you like Farley, it'll get you. It's just so good. It's so accurate, and like He says at one point in the thing, he's laughing and he's like, and when guys ask me who's the funniest guy I ever knew, it's hands down, no doubt it was you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he is. He's just like, he just had it.
And that's what everyone says about him. Like every single guy on SNL, they all said that he was the funniest. God, kills me. Next up is another guy from SNL, another guy that really loved Farley for me, and this is because of my sister Leslie, the other one of my three sisters. Her and I, we would watch Billy Madison religiously, relentlessly.
Madison's on your list.
Yeah. It is on my
Billy
list.
Madison shaped you more than Gilmore.
More than Gilmore.
Interesting.
Even though I actually think I like Gilmore more now, Billy Madison was the movie that me and my sister watched because it was her and her best friend's favorite movie in high school.
Right.
So that she would show it to me, and it was like, oh, this is your and Avril's favorite movie.
Yeah.
Like, and then I got to share in the jokes, like shampoo is better, no conditioner, like every dumb thing in there. I felt that I was as cool as my sister because I could quote it and she would laugh.
Is it now the girl, Veronica Vaughn? Is it Allie Larder, or it looks like Allie Larder, but it's that other chick?
I can't. I think it looks like Allie Larder, but it's someone else. But I'll have to confirm. I'm gonna confirm that.
I can never remember. I don't think it's Allie Larder. I think it's someone else who like didn't really act very much after.
Yeah, it's Rebecca or
something like that.
Bridget Wilson.
Yeah. She's just not in that much stuff. But
no.
Yeah, she. I mean, that movie's great. The only reason I feel like that movie.
You know who she is? Sonya Blade.
Sonya Blade.
Yes.
I mix the two up it's her and Allie Larder. No, I mean, Billy Madison's amazing, and the funniest part is the perhaps funniest part of that movie is Chris Farley.
Yeah,
he's like the bus driver. He's amazing. Good Lord, who would eat 75 sack lunches? I'll tell you who. It was that damn Sasquatch. It just shows him and Norm Macdonald.
Like laughing and like all these sandwiches. No yelling on the bus.
I'll turn this damn bus around. That'll end your precious
little field trip.
I mean, all his moments, like, that Veronica Vaughn is one hot piece of ace.
I had a friend.
Believe me, dude, I know from experience.
No, you don't. No, I don't.
No, we didn't. No, but you can imagine it to be like if she did.
Okay. Yeah, he really is arguably the best part of that whole. Every time he has cameo, and then also the fact that like at the end he's like with the penguin. It's just like so stupid and silly.
Yeah,
love it.
It's great. Next up on my list, I will go with the aforementioned Sonya Blade. I go Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat the movie came out I think the same year as Tommy Boy. That same summer, I probably went and saw it in theaters.
I think you're forgetting that we're fighting for the fate of the world.
Have you forgot? We are fighting for the fate of the world.
Robin Chow.
Yeah, incredible. Just, Grandfather, get up. This is not your god of thunder. He's just a beggar.
I loved Mortal Kombat. The fight with him and Reptile is still one of my favorite things in movie history.
Yeah. I watched this movie 89 times as a child. It was a thing. I kept count.
You counted.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like, or if I didn't actually, I just lied and told people that's what had happened, but I'd watched it like 30 times. I mean,
convinced yourself.
It's been long enough that I don't remember which actually it was now, but I had the VHS tape and I watched it an enormous number of times. Like I knew every word to this movie, every single sequence. Like so much so that when we watched it on our show a couple years ago on Action Movie Anatomy, I was just dying laughing because like every scene, there's like a shot or a sound or a piece of music or a color that was so familiar. It would come on and I would just be like, I lived and breathed this at one point.
That movie was one of the few movies, for some reason, when you mention it, pops in my mind as like a movie I would be upset that I had to rewind. Because I was so excited to watch it. Yeah. Like me and my buddies would be like, do you want to watch Mortal Kombat? Like, yeah. And we go and be like, dang it. All right, let me rewind really quick.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Like each of the scenes, like when you first meet Johnny Cage and he's fighting the guys, and this is the part where you're supposed to fall down. Yeah. Where do you get these guys? And then the guy, hey, Johnny.
Kano and Goro and Shang Tsung were like so evil to me.
Oh, they're so sweet. They're
so good.
Hey, Lou, remember when our parents died?
Yeah, Shang Tsung scared me.
Oh, my soul.
Yeah, I think the first time I ever saw Mortal Kombat was at a Taekwondo sleepover, where we had like everyone that was in. It was like 30 of us, and we watched it there because martial arts. Yeah, I know.
Taekwondo sleepover.
It was like at the dojo.
That should be a name of a comedy we write. Taekwondo sleepover.
And we're just like overweight and depressed, and that's like what we become, or Taekwondo instructors.
I don't know. It seems funny.
Is it me next? Yeah. So next for me, I think I'm gonna have to go. Yeah, because the next two are too good. So, Braveheart is a movie that I remember when I was in middle school, I started to quiz people on movie trivia.
Yeah.
And Braveheart was one of the movies I could always get people with. I'd be like, Mel Gibson won an Oscar for this.
Yeah.
What was it? And like it was because he wins Best Director for Braveheart.
Right.
You know, he never got an acting one. Braveheart was one of the first movies where I kind of realized how grand a movie could be scale-wise.
Yeah,
like in the big battles, and how long a movie could be. Because I remember I had the 2 VHS package.
Right. Yeah.
And you always would switch to the second DVD right after he throws, after Richard, right? That's the name of the king. No, why can't I remember the name of the king? Anyway, the King of England, when he throws his son's like lover out the window, his war advisor, and then it would be like put in second video. I just loved Mel Gibson. I thought that he was like the coolest, most badass dude ever. Like William Wallace was the greatest real life hero. And like I even remember in middle school there was this like British health instructor that I had, Mr. Jones, who used to always bring up the end of Braveheart.
Yeah.
He was very, very British. And he used to talk about how stupid he thought the end of Braveheart was.
But all he has to do is...
Well, no, he would just be like, if I'm getting tortured, I would not be screaming out freedom. Yeah. That's bollocks. Like things like that. And I'd be like, you're just salty. Yeah, I love that movie. He was like the love that he has for his wife. Is so like pure for Murren. And
well, I mean, yeah, because in this movie, you weren't alone. The world felt that way about Mel Gibson until about 2001. Or 2003 or something. But like whenever all that shit happened, like he was like America's sweetheart. He like was that guy. He like had all that. So. Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch this movie growing up. I watched this movie probably in high school or something like that. Like probably around 17 or 18. I think I like rented it and watched it. And then I only saw it the one time until we did it on the show a couple years ago.
That's so crazy.
So I've just seen this movie twice.
I've probably seen it like 20 or 30 times, and it's so long.
Yeah, I just like I mean, this movie's sweet. It's legendary for sure.
Yeah, and as we've gotten older, you realize it's like, holy crap, that's Brian Cox. Holy crap, that's Brendan Gleeson.
Yeah,
like there's so many great characters in it. Yeah, I would not be the movie lover that I am today without Braveheart.
The princess
Sophia, or I can't remember. No,
it's Sophie Marceau.
Yeah,
no.
Yep.
Is that her name?
Yep, that's her. That's who it is.
Loved
her too.
Yeah, she's great. Next up on my list, I'm gonna go with. I can't remember his name. I'm gonna go with Mallrats.
Really?
Yeah. So
these movies were out of my wheelhouse growing up.
Yeah. So again, like you learn from your sisters. Like my older brother was a really big Kevin Smith guy. And so when I was like 11 or 12 years old, he like started telling me about when he and his friends. So like this. Okay, if I'm 11 or 12, that means it's it's 99, 2000. Clerks came out in 94. Mallrats probably comes out in I'm guessing like 97 or something like that. 96 maybe. 97 I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so this movie had been out a few years, and like Clerks and Mallrats were like just the movies when he was in middle school and high school that he and his friends were quoting. And so I started watching these movies, and like your older sibling influences you a lot. I got kind of obsessed with these Kevin Smith movies, and they're funny. They're like good dick and fart jokes. They're perfect for like a high school kid.
Yeah,
they're sort of perfect for that. And I like really like just like loved this movie in particular. Like they're in a mall, and like. I was the right age. I was like 14 or 15 probably, like wanting to just like go hang out on the weekends at a mall, just like with my buddies away from my parents, and like just like harass people in the stores. And you just think that being like kind of a stoner, like burnout, is like a cool thing.
Even though you didn't really know what a stoner was.
No, and like Brody has like his like lair with his like video games and posters in the basement, and comic books. I was a big comic book kid, so like he was like my hero.
I think I've only seen Mallrats like twice, and Clerks, like all those earlier Kevin Smith movies.
It's also like Clerks is the sweetest Jay and Silent Bob movie because like they're the most like raw, but Mallrats like they get a lot of rope and they're super sweet.
I still love Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Yeah, it's great.
It was so ridiculous.
So I watched Mallrats a lot. That was definitely a movie that I just know that movie inside and out.
Is that your favorite Kevin Smith movie now?
No, I think the best Kevin Smith movie is Clerks. If you go back and watch them, just because like. It's the most clever and simple and cheap and awesome. Mallrats is awesome. Like, I love Mallrats. I think his movies, I find his movies to be less good now than I did then. Mm-hmm. They're sort of perfect for that age.
Yeah, definitely.
And like some of his later stuff, I enjoy some of his later stuff. Like I actually think Red State's pretty good, and Zack and Miri is pretty good, and like
I actually really love Zack and Miri.
yeah, he's made some movies that are pretty entertaining. Tusk is really weird.
I haven't seen that one.
Kind of gross, but like
what is that one about again?
It's this Michael Parks plays this like weird old guy who basically kidnaps Justin Long, who's like a total piece of shit radio host, cheats on his girlfriend.
Okay.
And he performs surgery on him to turn him into a walrus. He like has like a walrus skin that he basically amputates all of Justin Long's body and turns him into a walrus. It's really creepy.
Is it supposed to be funny too?
It's like a dark comedy. And at the end, you like basically, I mean, I'm just spoiling the movie, but like at the end of the movie, you like see him in a zoo and he's like a human who's been turned into a walrus, and his ex-girlfriend falls in love with his former radio host, and like they go see him at the zoo.
Wow. And that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
That's depressing as hell.
Really dark.
That's crazy. So next up, I think I'm going to mention actually what I think the number one movie is for me, but I'm gonna mention it beforehand because I know that one movie is on both of our lists.
Yeah.
So for me, I think the movie that shaped me the most was Gladiator, and I've talked about it time and time again. It's my favorite movie of all time. It was a movie when I think I really realized I wanted to be an actor.
Yeah.
When I saw Russell Crowe in that movie, I also realized like what acting could do, in the sense that I hated Joaquin Phoenix. I like actually thought he was a bad person in real life because of how great he is at playing Commodus. And
He's such a piece of shit too when he stabs him for the
Yeah.
final fight. You're like, you cheater.
yes,
Like,
I'm like, yes, and even now it's like when I watch it, I'm like, grr. And the lines that he says, like, I love my, it's like, you love my father? I know, but I loved him too. And you're just
Yeah.
like, you are so pathetic.
Yeah.
I hate you.
And he's okay being pathetic.
Yeah, he's totally fine
He
with
cries and suffocates his dad.
Yep,
Just,
And like when he's whining about, no, I love Maximus for his mercy.
Yeah.
My mom used to always, whenever that part would happen, because it would always be on in the background.
Yeah.
Always. She would, every single time that line was said, she'd be like, that loser. And I could always tell when my mom was listening to the movie or not, because if that moment would pass and she didn't say anything,
Yeah.
I was like, she's not listening today.
Yeah.
But I would probably watch that movie like maybe 3 or 4 times a month.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
Like as long as I can remember. And I think truly revenge movies are like my favorite movies.
Yeah.
I really think so. Like revenge dramas, like Old Boy is probably my other favorite movie of all time, and that's exactly what it is.
So Gladiator is right. Gladiator is on my didn't quite make the honorable mentions part of my honorable mentions because it's right there. I mean,
Right.
and we're the same age, and that movie, it's pretty hard to be a dude who was our age at 12 years old, and that movie comes out and not feel like it was the coolest thing you'd ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, we watched it at a sleep. So what happened was my buddy Peter Bauer told me
Yeah.
in shop class, being like, yo, I just saw this movie last night. And he like told me about like the axe through the foot.
Yeah.
And like he told me about a bunch of parts, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this sounds a little too intense for me. And then I watched it at my buddy's sleepover one
Yeah.
night for his birthday, and I was a little scared. I was very prepared for a really
Yeah.
intense movie, and there was 4 of us there, and we did that thing that you talk about. You
Yeah.
watch the whole movie through.
Yeah.
You stop, you rewind, and you watch it again.
Yeah.
That was the first time I ever watched Gladiator.
Yeah, I mean, this Gladiator was amazing, and there's very few movies I can think of that impacted me in the same way. The other movie is my number one. I believe it's on both our lists, so
Yep.
I'll do my other, and then we can get to that as the final.
Okay, fair.
Because I think it's the closing on that. I mean,
Feels
it's the
correct.
only movie I can think of that was just like defined what coolness was.
Yeah.
More than Gladiator, which is
And
almost
if you guys
impossible.
are listening right now, I would love to see the comments. You guys guess what that movie is. Like, just
Yeah.
if you could put in the comments, guess what you think our movie is that we both have on our list.
Yeah, and because like again, like we're the same age, it's within the same few years there. So let us know if you guessed correctly once we get there.
Yeah.
So my second to last movie is Point Break, and of
course.
of course, it is. And I've
That
talked
was
about
my
it.
Clueless.
Yeah, I've talked about it on a lot of episodes. I almost didn't want to put it on here just because I've talked about it enough
Yeah.
that I feel, but it feels improper if I don't. Because my brother gave me a VHS tape of Hook when I was like 6,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the first VHS I ever owned. And then around like 2000, probably 99, he gave me a VHS copy of Point Break and The Player, which is a Robert Altman movie that I really like. And you're like, these are sweet. Happy birthday. I like watched Point Break, and kind of in the same way that he told me how sweet Mallrats was, he was like, Keanu has all these ridiculous lines. My buddies and I would always quote, I'm an FBI agent, like
FBI agent.
all the lines, all the Swayze lines, and like, just
I only live to get radical. That's my favorite line in the whole movie.
It's just so good. And like the fight on the beach at the end.
Yeah.
You lose something, brah. I've been to every city in Mexico. Like the movie is just unbelievable. And I like convinced my friend Louis Cruz when I was like a year younger than me when I was in like 7th grade or something. Like this was the funniest, sweetest movie. And Gary Busey's so ridiculous.
Busey's amazing.
The meatball sandwiches line. And so I watched this movie 50 times in middle school. And it became my favorite movie. And Swayze just became my guy.
I think when we covered it on AMA, it was like the first time that I truly sat down and watched it from beginning to end.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in the same way with Braveheart. Like, it's just, who my brother being who he was, and, like, Point Break just became, like, this movie that, like, and it's that way in culture. It's a very referenced, like, silly action movie. So much so that there was, like, Point Break Live you could go see in L.A.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, they did it for years. Oh, yeah, it was awesome. It was a collaborative show where they recast all the other characters other than Keanu. You'd go up there, like, they'd call a bunch of people up to do your best Keanu impression to start the show, and they'd cast somebody as Keanu for that night. And then you'd be up there, they'd be feeding you lines because he's such a bad actor. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter if you know the lines. Everybody just acts around you, basically.
No way.
Yeah,
awesome.
I went up there and I was the runner-up on Keanu. I didn't get to do it. Yeah.
I mean, they also like even reference Point Break in the Marvel movies when they call him Point Break.
Yeah,
like it's like that's how iconic that movie is.
It's like a very like cult classic action sort of iconic movie in that way.
Bigelow's like that was her biggest thing.
Yeah, and I've said this before, but like Catherine Bigelow, like it makes sense that movie would be well loved because the action sequences of that movie are actually done quite well.
Yep.
And I think it's the best Swayze ever is, and Swayze like was like McConaughey before McConaughey.
Yeah,
he's like really just that guy. And so
his bank robberies are intense.
Yeah, they're sweet.
The last one.
Yeah.
It's real gnarly.
Totally.
Yeah.
So that's going to be my second to last movie. So the very last movie on our list that we both know because we discussed it.
Yes, we did.
I saw this movie in theaters with my dad. Did you see it in theaters?
I saw it in theaters with my sister, Leslie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember at school, in elementary school, because
it was 5th grade.
5th grade.
I remember because the next day in school I came and I just did a full like synopsis at lunch to like 5 people.
I remember somebody being like, I was like, I want to go see this movie this weekend. It's called The Matrix.
Yeah.
And they were like, what's it about? I was like, I don't know. I think you can like stop time, like slow stuff down.
Dodge bullets
I'm not really sure. I think that's what it's about, but I'm going to go see it. And like my dad and I went to see it, and like both of us like walked out and just like, this is the coolest thing.
Well, yeah, right? So that's you and your dad.
Yeah.
You know, so it was me and my sister. She was 10 years older than I was at the time, and she was in her early 20s, and like, I mean, that movie made you rethink your whole entire life.
Yeah.
Like, we all thought we were in the Matrix for a while afterwards because it was so believable.
Yeah.
Like, my whole life is just a lie. What if I'm just a battery in a field somewhere? And, like, seeing the martial arts the way it was.
I know. The martial arts, all the fighting was so cool, and like guns, lots of guns, and the special effects were amazing. I mean, like the shootout in the lobby.
Agent Smith was like such a great villain.
Morpheus was such a cool mentor character. Morpheus is fighting Neo.
Yeah, that was like that moment still like gives me chill. Like Trinity is like maybe the most badass chick ever. Like I remember my sister just like losing it over her because the movie opens with her kicking ass. Yeah.
She does the wraparound kick. Yeah, and then she dives through the like little tiny window. You're like, how's that possible?
Yeah, and the cop's like, that's impossible.
Yeah.
When they're jumping from roof to roof.
Yeah.
And then the agents, just the idea of the agents, these like unbeatable bad guys.
Unkillable
like,
black
how can
suits.
you win?
Yeah.
You know?
And like, what's he doing? He's starting to believe. I mean, that movie's just great.
Starting to believe.
That movie is just outright great. Like it succeeds on every level. Goddamn you, Cypher.
Goddamn you, Cypher.
Yeah.
Not like this.
Yeah, Tank and Dozer. I mean,
oh yeah. And then like the other thing too is as you get older, and you know, I actually just did I was on Sending the Wolf with Clark Wolf, and we talked about the Matrix for an hour extensively, and she actually brought some things to my mind that I'd never really even thought about before. So I really encourage you guys to go and check that out if you can find it. Sending the Wolf with me on the Matrix. But it was, I mean, that was the one. That was like the coolest thing ever. Like so much so that I mean, obviously the bad things that came from it, but it was so influential on culture that like you and I both couldn't wear trench coats in schools because of the shooting that had happened. And everyone blamed it on the Matrix and their trench coats and all the guns. And
right.
Like, I mean, Keanu was just the coolest guy in the world again.
Yeah,
it just truly was.
It's just like right now, which is literally.
Well, it's just so funny.
It's so funny. He's like 47 or something. Yeah. He's like back to like coolest guy in the world status right now.
Yeah, so. I saw a meme of like it was like Chuck Norris handing the keys over to Keanu for coolest guy in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny. But anyway, I think that is going to wrap up our episode here, talking about the movies that shaped us.
Yeah, I was trying to think if there's anything else about The Matrix specifically that just made me lose my mind. And also, I think it was the special effects. At the time, we'd never seen something like that. Like the dodging the bullets, the bullet time, slowing things down, like the rippling building.
Yeah, that was groundbreaking stuff. It was groundbreaking stuff. And like, just the casting was perfect. And it's the time period. It's funny if you go back now to watch, a lot of the movie succeeds and a lot of it feels really 90s. Which is funny, like all like the computer hacking, and dancing, and the black leather, and the sunglasses, and like I mean, there's dude, like so much of the stuff. Him, Morpheus, like putting the sunglasses on. It's just that shit's just really funny. Like,
which if it popped up in a movie now, would be the lamest thing ever.
Yeah, it's like so stylized, but like that movie was just like part of a like the sort of subculture of like computer hacking existentialism that was like there's a lot of books written about it.
We also talked a lot about how like previously on. I think it might have been on our episode of AMA covering Lord of the Rings, but whatever it was, we were talking about, it was because of Peter Jackson. After this movie, the Wachowskis just became that name, like a name in Hollywood that essentially you could just be like from the directors of The Matrix,
right? Before
anything that they ever did, and it would draw a large crowd to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the definitive movies of all time. I think I was wondering if the last time AFI did their re-ranking of the 100 greatest films of all time if The Matrix made it, because it feels like it deserves to be on that list.
I mean, so that's the thing with Signing the Wolf is you pull a movie from the AFI's top 100.
Okay.
But I can't remember if this was in 100 thrills or if it was just in the 100 period. But it was on one of their top 100 lists.
Yeah, for sure. It's got to be. I mean, if you're going to do greatest action movies of all time, I think Matrix is top 10 for sure.
Definitely.
Top 5 even. So anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up the episode. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you are watching this on our YouTube channel, please hit that subscribe, that notification button. Leave your comments and thoughts below. Which movies shaped you? What are your top 5? If you're listening to this on audio, then be sure to subscribe to the feed. If you are already, then leave a comment, leave a review. Thanks for listening, supporting what we're doing, and be sure to follow Action Industries everywhere you possibly can.
Yeah, and remember that on Mondays, if you're dying to get more of the action guys, these episodes go up at 6 p.m. We usually do a live stream from 5 to 6 p.m. on our YouTube channel. It's a great way to kind of talk to us about not what the episode's going to be about, because we will already have taped the episode. It takes a little while to post and render and all that, but it's just a cool way to get more of the action guys on a day where you're already looking forward to what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, so thanks for listening, guys. We'll be back next week with more awesome content.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye, everybody.